smell that? Do you smell that?
What?
Napalm, son. Nothing else in the world smells like that. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. You know, one time we had a hill bomb for 12 hours. When it was all over, I walked up. We didn't find one of them. Not one stinking body. The smell. You know that gasoline smell? The whole hill smelled like cheat codes. Welcome, everybody. It's episode 117 on November 3rd, 2016. Welcome to the Cheat Codes Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We're always glad to have you with us. The next hour is us drinking a few beers, and we're going over our favorite bits from the past week in video game, tech, and pop culture news. We're coming to you from a patrol boat in Nam, or maybe Cambodia. We'd specify, but it's classified. My name is Joe Erskine, and I am your host, and I am here with Cheat Codes, I don't know, artist and basic guy who keeps us all in line, Mr. Bernard Willard Hwang.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, buddy?
I thought for some reason his middle name was Willard for a second.
In actual real life, that'd be amazing.
I didn't know Bernard's middle name was Willard.
And Cheat Codes core panelist, Mr. Nikk Golesh.
Hey,
he's going. On this episode, we'll sit on our helmets so we don't get our balls blown off while discussing the following main topics. Being a mediocre gamer doesn't need celebration, but we're going to celebrate it anyways. The case for and or against the Vigilante app that just got pulled from the Apple Store. And let's check in on those permadeath games. More to come in a moment. For the lightning round, we'll blast Wagner out of the helicopters to scare the locals while chatting about... We're getting the impression Kojima is bandwagoning with Westworld. Just saying.
That sounds all right.
And Facebook's Game Room is meant to compete with Steam, apparently? We'll get to the bottom of it. Bernard, it's good to see you, buddy. Welcome back, man. Hope you had a good Halloween. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
Can you tell us anything more about what you've been working on or what you're doing lately?
I'm pretty close to finishing a personal project, I guess, for my portfolio. So it's not something I've been advertising on, yeah, but it's gonna be done soon. I'll probably have it up on my site if anyone wants to check it out.
I want to check it out.
Yeah, you better hurry up.
Oh, but
hurry up. Hurry up. There you go.
It's only for Android, unfortunately.
Oh, that's cool. I have an Android phone.
Well,
right, cool.
I'll play it on Nick's phone.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
All right, great. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How's the week been?
It's been
I mean, I see you every day, but...
It's been good. I caught the very end of the World Series last night. After the tie and after the rain out, I got in, and it's the 10th inning, and
yeah,
I got to see a little bit of that. It was pretty good.
Pretty amazing.
Pretty good.
Congratulations to the Chicago Cubs. And to the Cleveland Indians for a well-fought series. Game 7, I don't know, 108 years of broken curse. Sports fan or not, it's pretty fucking incredible.
I was reading something. Who's the guy? Montgomery. He's the last pitcher.
Okay.
For the
closer. Yeah.
Yeah. He threw 2 balls and then the game was over.
Right.
Which is pretty great for him. Pretty good job.
It's a good paycheck. Yeah, absolutely.
But I think he was originally a Mariners.
Seattle guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was reading something the Mariners technically won also because Montgomery. Because I guess he was a big
that's
fan.
Not how baseball works.
I don't know. That's how fans think it works.
Okay, fair enough. All right, we claim some sort of credit for nothing. Yeah, that's great. Okay.
Go Mariners.
Yeah. All right. Very quickly, real quick before we move on, I think the best thing about the whole World Series is watching just how happy Bill Murray was.
Yeah.
Just all there's all these great celebratory videos of the Cubs winning after 108 years and all this stuff, and then it's just every other thing is Bill Murray. Oh, there's Bill Murray, and Bill Murray is now with Theo Epstein, and now he's spraying champagne.
Honestly, I would want to know about those things going on during the game anyway.
Yeah, it was
baseball has enough stop moments that they can cut away to those kind of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great way to fill that downtime. Yeah. I appreciate that.
There's a lot of
it. Very quickly, let's talk about what we're washing the episode down with. When Lieutenant Colonel Bill Kilgore applauds the way your helicopter fire wrecks an occupied tree line, he awards you with a case of beer courtesy of the U.S. Army. We feel like to deliver a decent podcast, we go ahead and just assume that we need the case of beer ahead of time. This week, we're enjoying a few Torpedo Extra IPAs from the folks at Sierra Nevada.
Yummy.
It's good. If Colonel Kurtz had just one beer or two, things might have gone differently. But here we are. Someone cue up Doors the End real quick. No? Okay.
No.
All right, guys, let's do this.
Number 1.
We're all gamers, some better than others. Safe to say none of us are pro gamers, but we're individually good at some games, not so great at others. I don't think any of us suck, so to speak, but here's the rub. It's okay to just be meh at playing games. The plethora of experiences, I said plethora specifically for Chris Morris, who can't be with us. But
It's a plethora.
It's a plethora of experiences and possible choices to make in these games. Makes a lot of them just fun to be in, whether or not you finish them or interact with every last piece of content. We can say it's okay to embrace mediocrity here. Is this a reasonable statement to make? Would we be better devs if we were the best players in the world? How does playing inform our devness or otherwise? I'm curious. I mean, journalists get called out, apparently recently, for sucking at games, often unfairly. But we admire the pros, especially athletes, right now, especially for their prowess in particular games or specific genres. Maybe it's time we all just gave ourselves a hug and said it's okay to be mediocre gamers, guys. I'm curious about this. Was based off an article from Geek Dad, and basically just kind of lamenting the fact, not lamenting, but celebrating the fact that it's okay to be all right at games. You don't have to be a pro gamer to still have fun, and you don't have to feel like you're being judged by some sort of invisible audience about being,
you're always
not
being
so great
judged on the internet. That's how the internet works.
I feel like we spend more time judging ourselves.
It's a judging ground.
Well, that's the problem, I guess. You put yourself out there, you're going to subject
that's
yourself to something, of some sort of vitriol or feedback, good or bad. I guess.
Well, yeah, you see other people, you're going to compare yourself to them, and then you obviously judge yourself. I mean, that's kind of how Facebook works, also, social networks, I guess. I was odd that he felt like, or was it a
it was
woman?
a she, yeah.
I thought it was a woman.
The article, yeah.
I thought it was odd that she was, I don't know,
felt like she needed to make it okay.
Make it a point to be okay, because I already thought it was okay to be a mediocre game.
Well, that's good. You're clearly more evolved than the rest of us.
I mean, I understand people get upset at people for sucking at video games, but it's just entertainment for people to enjoy. People can enjoy it however they want. They don't have to be great at it. I mean, I don't have to play with them if they suck or something, but
okay.
And that's just in multiplayer settings or something. And most of the games that she was talking about were not even multiplayer games; they're just regular games.
Right, big open world things where it's I just kind of wander around and do stuff. I never finish the game, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I was a little put off by the fact that she felt that she was expected to perform well in single player video games.
Interesting.
I thought it was a little odd, just maybe because I'm more in a bubble of video games where it's just more common just to play anything without any kind of experience of it. But
is it important to make a distinction that just because you spend a bunch of time playing a particular game and aren't necessarily making a bunch of tangible progress, does that mean that you're bad at that game, or are you just playing it the way you want to play it?
That's a loaded question.
I don't mean it to be, but I guess it's why can't people just play the way they want to play, right?
No, yeah, I get that. I don't know. It's
kind of weird, right?
Yeah. That's why I felt like it was a little odd, because I don't feel like I experienced this, and I don't feel this way about people who suck at video games.
Sure.
I mean, you
just don't play with them.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily. I just mean I live with Joe and his wife's not the best at video games. She didn't grow up with video games, but she still enjoys them, and I don't think
that she's a bad gamer.
I mean,
does she suck at games?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Really, okay, it was very diplomatic.
It's a leading question.
Yeah, it definitely takes some kind of dexterity to get good at games. You do have to practice playing video games.
I think the more you play games, the better you are at them.
Yeah, you have a better understanding of how games work.
Sure.
You tell somebody to pick up a controller and tell them to jump on to a platform. That's actually not a terribly easy task if they don't have any context
frame of reference or whatever. Okay.
What do you mean? It's just what do you mean exactly? Jump? Which button do I press? It's
sure.
I've been playing video games for so long that I know the obvious button to press.
Right.
Usually.
Bernard, do you consider yourself a good gamer, a mediocre gamer, or are you bad at games?
I would say I'm competitive to a certain degree. For, certain games, I've been playing a lot of Overwatch recently.
Okay.
And the competitive aspect of it, where I'm just trying to grind out points and get to the next rank or whatever. That's certainly an aspect of what I do in a game.
But you buy into the progression, you play to those mechanics, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's just sort of the way that I play certain games.
Right.
And the perspective that she's putting out there, where it's it's fine to not be the best. That makes a lot of sense, and that should be, I guess, a goal for a game. If you're trying to design a game that's accessible, it's definitely a big part of it to make it. To have a large skill gap within the game where it accommodates people of who who are just starting out to play that genre, or people who have like mastered the genre and are like a really, I guess, like have a lot of muscle memory in doing certain things. So yeah, like I agree with her, and I guess the reason why she might have written this is, I guess, like, I mean, like what's happening right now. We got esports being a little more prominent, so like that's sort of like being professional at like, you know, skills in a video game are becoming more popular. But and I guess like just the popularity of like just kind of doing better at things is always present in our culture. So it's, but if I like the article, I guess is my final opinion on it.
Well, that's good to know. I guess, I mean, as always, I mean, these are more like kind of a jumping off platform. I just thought like, I don't know. I read that and I kind of felt better too, because there are times when I get wrapped up in conversations with other people at work or even amongst my friends and stuff, and it's like, I don't know if I feel guilty for not playing a game a certain way, or if I don't like, but I'm just, at some point I have to kind of let that shit go, right? Because it's like, I'm just going to play the way I want to play. Everybody else can go fuck themselves.
I guess that's always how I've approached it, I guess. I don't know.
No, fair enough. I'm just speaking strictly for myself, you know what I mean? And I so at some point, like, you know, as much as I wish I had more time to play more of a game to get necessarily better at it, or at least, I feel like it's never about getting good at a game for me, though. I feel like it's just about seeing as much of it as I can before I don't have time for the game anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's always like a race against the clock. It's a metagame in itself for me to try and play as much of a game as possible before I can't play it anymore.
That's not how I play games. Though,
see, there you go. So there, I mean, maybe that's a defining trait right there, right? Like, it's all about the approach, ultimately, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I just feel like, I don't want to say, to me, it felt like she was complaining about the anxiety she got for the fact that she wasn't performing well in video games when there was nobody there to judge her for how well she was doing sometimes. It just, I don't know. Like, that's the way I read the article, and I don't know.
She felt like there was this like specter of judgment hanging over her.
And I don't, maybe it's because I don't get anxious about a lot of things, but it just, I don't feel the video game culture is necessarily about that, like necessarily being the best. It's about playing a game. You're playing a game ultimately to have fun and not necessarily perform well at it. If you're having fun at the game, then keep playing it.
To that point, I think she did also mention all of the stuff that she still enjoys about playing games. It's not just all about anxiety necessarily, right? Like, I'm just trying to qualify it appropriately. You know what I mean? Like, both sides. But I think, I don't know. Like, I am definitely somewhat, like, comparatively to you, Nick, I think I'm somebody who's a bit more anxious. You know what I mean? And I think ultimately, I worry less about, especially from a single player experience, like how good I am at this particular experience. It's more like, do I actually have the time to sit here and listen to this cutscene, or am I just gonna kind of click through it and sacrifice some sort of dialogue option? Because ultimately, it's not necessarily gonna make me better at the game. There might be some information that like helps me through a certain section or something, but I'm still gonna, like, I have this set of mechanics. I'm still gonna use them no matter what. Bring it on and let's see what happens. And that being said, I'm not trying to like rush through anything necessarily. Like, if I'm involved or I'm invested in something, I'll take the time. But at the same time, I am trying to just like experience as much as I can, so I can, I don't know, ultimately say like, oh yeah, I'm halfway through Gears 4 right now, and I'm just kind of like, I haven't played it in like a week, and I'm kind of like, maybe I'll finish that one day. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Because I'm also trying to make time for Civ 6 and. I don't know.
Other games? You got to buy RimWorld.
You keep telling me that.
You might as well play some Factorio.
Maybe that too. I don't know. We'll see. Some
Overwatch.
I like the idea that it's okay to play games. Whether or not it's okay to be mediocre, good, or shitty at games, it doesn't make a difference to me. I think the idea that games are for everyone, or should be to a certain degree, I guess, is a good idea. And playing them the way you want to play them is still a nice kind of thought and sentiment to celebrate, right?
I guess so. It just, the whole argument, I guess, is like, if we break it down, is it okay to be mediocre at anything, or like, is it okay? Well,
I guess that's my question at the beginning. Like, everyone's like, never settle for mediocrity, right? But like this being very specific in the sense, like, it's okay to be mediocre at games if that's how you want to describe this particular play style. Like, I feel like by saying mediocre at games means like you're not going to go pro and you're playing it the way you want to play it, and that's kind of what that means. You know what I mean? And if that's kind of like a loose definition, then I'm all right with that. do you know what I mean? Because I'm never going to go pro, and I don't necessarily need to play games a certain way. I am curious about having that that unspoken dialogue with the designer or the people that develop the game, and kind of like progressing through it in a way that maybe they intended. Less than, I'm just going to go and run into every corner to see if I can break this thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Here's
so accepting mediocrity is okay in this regard, is what I'm saying. So go ahead, Bernard.
I guess a follow-up question for you, Joe. Like, is there something else in life that like you kind of approach in that competitive like way, where like you try to always advance yourself?
I think my job. I'm not sure. I wouldn't say competitive. I would say that I am constantly on a search to be better at it.
Right.
So not settling for mediocrity in that regard, I guess. Or maybe I'm still trying to be mediocre, and then when I hit that, then I'll try and go, quote unquote pro. But no, I think ultimately, like, those things have real world. That particular instance have real world repercussions, and I need to. I don't have to be the best at what I do. I just need to be good enough to maintain. You know what I mean? And I want to be as good as I can be. You know what I mean? But I don't know what that means to other people. You know what I mean? So,
but so like. I guess okay, so it's kind of weird way to look at it, but like ultimately, like if you are on a path to like keep advancing your skill in this certain thing, like do you at a certain point, like your perspective will be able to like tell like, well, this person who's like not in direct competition with me, but like you'll be able to assess the skill level of other people as well.
Yes.
Then at a certain point, and if you're advanced enough, like you'll be able to tell like, well, this person is better or worse than me at something. So in a way, isn't it the same thing of like having that competitive nature?
Oh, absolutely. I think you especially when you're talking about yourself and trying to better yourself, like you set yourself benchmarks, and those benchmarks are probably inevitably based on exterior like factors, and whether that be other people in similar positions or just like weird arbitrary numbers that you want to hit, like a high score, for instance, in a video game, whatever it is. On a professional level, I think you just want to be able to like. I want to be able to, walk home every day and feel like I did a good job. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a super nebulous thing, but at the same, like, and there are days when that happens and some days it don't. And I feel like that happens to everybody to some degree. Yeah. And that doesn't ever necessarily really stop. I just feel like the good days should outweigh the bad ones, at least on your own, personal report card, I guess. You know what I mean? So. And they do, for the most part, for the record. So that's a good step, I guess. But yeah, when it comes to real life scenarios, mediocrity, I guess maybe be careful before you settle for it. Maybe try and be better. Be the best. What do they say? Be the best version of yourself, I guess.
People probably say that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the same.
Somebody's probably said that once.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. I mean, we can leave it. Final thoughts, gentlemen? I mean, I don't know. Bernard, how do you approach it? Do you accept mediocrity on certain things, or in this case, games, or are you, like you said, like very much you are more competitive in that way, and so you have these benchmarks that you set for yourself on some arbitrary level?
Yeah, I mean, it's like playing a lot of competitive Overwatch. It's definitely, I guess, you see a lot of different approaches to taking a game competitively, like in terms of like people, like. Just the toxicity of some people like that try to either like project their own deficiencies in some sort of skill in the game, or try to I guess advance themselves by making everyone else feel worse. It's kind of a dangerous path that you can go down in certain ways, but I think as in like all things, it's important to like have a cool head and like just approach things from like a have a removed perspective and like sort of see things in like a wider scope. So
more zen, if you would. Yeah.
So just it's fine to be competitive. Just be I guess caring for how you're affecting people that you are competing against or competing with.
There you go. Nikk.
Hey.
Hi.
How's it going?
Would you agree?
Yeah. I don't know.
Classic Nikk.
I was just thinking about like the way video games are so temporary sometimes. Like you buy one, you play it for a few hours, you don't even necessarily finish it, and you buy another one.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
they can be, for sure.
Yeah. So I feel like accepting mediocrity in playing how you play a video game is kind of like the norm. Like you pick up a game, you don't necessarily master it, but you just wanted to enjoy it. You just wanted to pick it up and play it. Like that's the whole.
Does that speak to you as a player, or more the game itself?
That speaks to you as a player, I feel like.
Okay.
Not necessarily the game.
Even if the game sucks, based on some list of factors that make no difference for the purposes of this conversation. But.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, if the game sucked, me choosing to be good at it, it doesn't have anything to necessarily...
to do with how the game was made or
how
who made it. Or,
it doesn't deal with my mediocrity towards the game, I guess, or something like, or for the game, or with the game.
That's a good. That's stumbling. Mediocrity. That's a good. Write that down, somebody.
What, mediocrity?
Mediocrity. I mean, we're a week ahead. A week away from an election here, fellas. We should write that down. Anyway,
mediocrity.
Mediocrity. All right. I think you're right though. I like it's if there's something that you want to be good at, then you're just going to do that, regardless of whether or not it means anything. Well, on any external scale or
like
to
I'm just
anyone
talking
else.
about like from the sense of me playing the game, like or me mastering it, despite how it's made or how good it is or something. If I want to be mediocre at it, I'm just gonna not put in a lot of effort or something. So
okay,
I mean that's what people do sometimes. They just buy.
You make a choice and then you do that thing that you chose to do.
I mean, okay, so
okay,
just like another final note. I guess it's just important to bring up like certain games are just like designed to, I guess, like bring out our competitive nature, like I guess like going into mobile design a bit, like things like whatever's like top billing right now, like Clash of Clans or whatever I think it is,
or Clash Royale even,
in Clash Royale, they're designed to have certain steps in terms of like turning people into paying customers, and one of the middle steps is to, or one of the two middle steps is to first get your friends involved so that they become players in the game, so that you can play with each other, and that's like sort of the fun aspect of it. But the second part of it is to try and sort of in a way make your friends jealous.
Right, pit you against them in a certain way. Yeah.
So that comes through by having like a higher rank than them, or having like certain special gear than them that they want. So in certain games where like certain games are just like designed for competition, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Sure.
So it's and certain games aren't. So that's
there's mechanics designed to like play upon those competitive, like these possibilities of competition, right? So no, I think it's whether you buy into it or not, it's up to you, right? Like it's
I mean, kind of like some games are like they're definitely incentivized that kind of.
Oh, certainly, and there's a certain psychology to it too, for sure. I agree. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not all about like
a simple choice of I'm going to play or I'm not. Yeah. I would agree with you, Bernard. I think that is accurate. All right.
Yeah,
we're moving on.
All right. Number 2.
All right, plain and simple. There's an app that was recently pulled from the Apple Store. It's called Vigilante. It's supposed to open up the 9/11 system, not 9/11, 911 system. Sorry, I don't know. I live in New York. Yeah, well, we're going to talk to one in a minute, too. It's supposed to open up the 911 system where people can use their phones to report crimes to other users in the area. It's only active in New York City at the moment, and there's an Android version imminent, apparently, according to the developers. I'm going to break this down brass tacks. I just want to know how you feel about this. Is this a good way to kind of like open source the 911 system? Do we need it? Does it make sense to help that the idea being that it would help people avoid crimes, or does this actually encourage actual vigilantism? I don't know. I feel like the liability chain goes on for miles here. Yeah. So but regardless, and maybe that's why Apple pulled it, but I don't know. I felt like this was kind of like you can make apps for anything, right? And I guess this is one aspect that I had never really considered, of like an app that helps make people more aware about crime in their area.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay.
At all, almost.
Okay.
Like the purpose, I guess, is to make people aware of where crimes are happening.
So it's like if you see a crime happening, you can use your Vigilante app to report that crime, and anybody else that uses the app that's in like a certain radius is aware of it.
So you.
It's like sending out like
instead
immediate
of
Amber
calling
alerts,
911, like you're supposed to, you get on your phone and get on an app, like Waze, and you report a crime happening here.
Not exactly. You make the call, like the call to 911 code goes through, but you're also alerting people within that area. It's a
simultaneous effect.
Yeah.
Like you're still doing the thing you should do, which is call 911.
So I'm letting everybody in the area know that
But you're also broadcasting a message to everyone else that has the app that says like this crime is happening here, and that broadcast happens over a certain radius. It's like what I forget what they said in the article, but it's like a certain mile or two radius for most, I think, or depending on the severity of the crime. I don't know, but
depending on the severity of the crime.
Well,
so,
I mean, there's a guy pooping on the street, and you're in New York. So no one gives a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If somebody's getting murdered, well, right, that guy is literally giving a shit. But if somebody's getting murdered, then that might go out on a wider radius, is what I'm saying. So
if somebody's getting murdered and you called the cops and you feel like you still have time to get on your app and report, I feel like something's still wrong with the situation.
Well, I'm saying it's happening based on the app. It's happening simultaneously. Like you're doing a 911 thing, but it's also like going out as part.
Well, I call 911 and my app automatically realizes that I called 911.
I guess.
And reports records my conversation and puts that into the app so people can listen to what I said to the police.
I think you're right. There's a certain indirection and like an obfuscation here that doesn't make a certain amount of sense. Yeah. Like if you have time to go do this, then either like get the fuck away from whatever's happening.
Why do you need to know about the
call the proper authorities?
Why do you need to know about a purse snatching that happened 2 blocks away if you had this app?
So there you go.
So this is sort of like well, like at least from what I can perceive it as, it's sort of like a response to a lot of, I guess, police brutality and like police-related murders that have occurred.
Yeah, tongue-in-cheekly. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, where there's not a lot of trust going on between, I guess,
law enforcement and the public. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah, so it's sort of alerting people, like if there is a crime occurring and police are arriving at the scene of the crime, maybe, or at least maybe the belief is that it's important to have more witnesses and more people at the crime scene to make sure that more injustice doesn't happen.
So you think the police want more people to come to the crime scene and interfere?
No, I think the police. I think the police are the ones that have the problem with this app.
Oh, I think they do, but I'm just like. I have a problem with this app. Okay. I don't know. Like, I just don't feel like people need to know that. People don't need to know where crimes are happening because it's going to disrupt. It's going to disrupt regular social order because people are going to do this vigilante shit.
Right, there's a certain amount of voyeurism that people are going to capitalize on.
People are going to go out. They're going to report.
Not everyone, but yeah,
people. This is going to happen. Like there will be Vigilante reports. I mean,
in New York, that shit happens.
Yeah, you probably don't even need the app for it. I mean, you got somebody who just goes out once in a while and. I don't know.
Well, in the article that this came from, literally it ends with the guy like who call the Dark Guardian. He's like one of those. he lives in Bed-Stuy, or like that's where he's like one of his primary patrol areas is. But he's like one of those, self-proclaimed real life quote unquote superheroes.
Yeah,
he like wears like body armor and shit, and like goes around like looking for trouble,
calling the cops. Is that? I mean, that's what a vigilante should do. Probably.
Yeah, I think the first thing you do is like I'm gonna hold on, let me call the cops real quick, and then I'm gonna jump in and like. Yeah. Save somebody's purse from getting snatched or catch the guy who just snatched the purse. But like you're gonna call 911 and then you're gonna get on your app and then do that if it's not simultaneous. I don't know. But it doesn't matter. The point
probably
is
not simultaneous.
It would be hard to see how that worked that way. I agree. But at the same time, I feel like you're opening up the doors here for. I mean, maybe there's more like stringent and interesting like benchmarks in place to kind of control some of this stuff, but I feel like this is opening the door for a lot more what ifs, and I'm not saying that the 911 is like a perfect system, but it's been in place for a long time. They've worked out the majority of the major kinks here, you know what I mean?
It's been in playtesting for a while.
It's the best early access program and longest and most tried and true of them all, but arguably I don't know. I feel like there's probably a version of this kind of concept that works really well and should be explored. And maybe this is one of those like, dipping the toes in the water and trying to figure that out. And like, this is where it starts before it gets usable or good for that matter. This is one of those situations where we cannot settle for mediocrity. Like, like we have to kind of figure out like, if you're going to go so far as to have some like, okay, rule number 1, do not call your app Vigilante for one. Let's not do that. Number 2, it should not impede in any actual law enforcement.
It should never. Yeah, I mean, and that's what it's doing, though.
The potential is certainly there. Yeah. I would agree with that. You know what I mean? I don't know if it actually is, or if there have been actual claims where like cops are like
came up or something with
like grabbed your phone and smashed it because like stop using the fucking Vigilante app, you fucking moron. That kind of thing. I don't know if that's actually a thing. You know what I mean? But.
So
I could see where that might happen.
So what happened? Okay, this situation just happened where somebody just got murdered in Central Park. Somebody reported it because they witnessed it
on Vigilante or via 911.
They called 911. Well, they reported to the police that there was a murder.
Okay.
Then they get on their app and they say a murder happened. You're standing 2 blocks away and you realize a murder just happened.
Sure.
2 blocks away. What's your next step?
It depends on what I'm doing.
What is your next step? I feel like
honestly I don't think there would be. If I'm in New York of all places, like I feel like I lived there for a long time. I'm pretty confident that a murder happened within 2 blocks from me multiple times.
I get that, and
I didn't do anything about it because I didn't know.
Because you didn't know. But let's say you did know. Now what do you do? What is the appropriate next response for somebody that has this app that just got a notification that a murder happened?
I don't know the answer to that question. I feel like ultimately what happens is we end up treating it like Amber Alerts, where it's like I don't know what this license plate number is, and I'm sorry that this has happened to that person, but I can't do anything about it.
Amber Alerts are handled by a
federal
broadcast
system.
Federal broadcast system or something. It's just. That's not like run by the public. So this is
no. I agree, but I feel like it's going to go down that same road where I'm going to get like if I have the Vigilante app and it's active in my area and I get a notification about something, unless it's happening with like 10 feet from me and I clearly missed it somehow.
Yeah,
there's a certain amount of ambivalence that is going to happen first.
But I guess
maybe that makes me a bad person. I don't know.
No. The point that Bernard was saying that maybe one of the points of this app is to get more people to witness the proceedings that the police go through or something to handle these situations.
I think there's an argument to be made for that, but I think their intention is to have people like avoid a crime in progress.
Avoid a murder that happened to
a shootout. I know, but or whatever.
You couldn't even give me an answer of what you would do if that happened. Like, would you avoid that? I'm not going to walk that direction.
I think it would depend on the situation. If it was a murder, I don't think I would do much because it's kind of like done with. But if it was like an escalating situation where it's like a shootout or like a bank robbery or something, like I would probably
get away from there or something.
I would not. I'm not going to stand around and watch that shit. You know what I mean? I am definitely not the type that rubbernecks at all. You know what I mean? Like, I get mad when there's a car accident on the road and people are slowing down to kind of gawk at it. Like, I hate that shit.
So what happened? I mean, you guys both live in New York. What happens when you guys are walking down the street and 8 cop cars just come screaming by?
Nothing. You keep walking and keep your fucking head down. It's a mastered art of it's not ambivalence because it's like you are conscious of what's going on around you, but the more attention you bring to yourself is a bad thing.
So that's already accomplishing. You hear a bunch of sirens, you usually walk away from them or something in New York City.
Or I just like don't pay it any like noticeable mind.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I mean, there's so much happening around you already that it's kind of hard just to like.
I don't know, Bernard. Would you say that that's accurate? Like, I mean, you were.
It happened. I mean, it just if it happens like enough times, like you just kind of
tune it out eventually. You just become like kind of inured to it. Like
if the cop cars are going in the same direction that you're walking down the street, do you turn directions? Do you change directions? I mean, you keep going to where you're going.
Not unless I'm standing in front of it, like walking past a store, and literally like 8 cop cars pull up to the exact spot where I'm standing. Then I'll probably be like, pretty sure this isn't me. I'm just going to kind of keep moving out of the way because I'm clearly about to be in the way.
So your first thoughts are get out of the police's way.
Yep.
Continue on with whatever the hell you're doing because they're going to do their job no matter what.
Yes.
So what does this app add to that situation? What's the point if the app is to help you avoid it if people just continue on their business anyways? Like
I'm not sure.
I don't
see the value here.
I don't see the value. I feel like they're onto something, and I do think that there is a lot of importance in the population reporting incidents, like the way it works with the Waze app, where like people can report traffic or where accidents are, and people can like adjust in real time.
Right.
That makes sense.
On a high level, like awareness is a good thing. Sure.
And I mean, it would make sense if like we could vote for certain policies by ourselves, like the public actually votes for it or something, like through some kind of like the things that like Congress votes on, those kind of laws or something. If the public had some kind of take on that or something, just like outsourcing to the public can give you a lot of good data. But it's just, I don't think this is the right approach for like this kind of thing.
I guess this is what I was alluding to before. I was like, it's an interesting that somebody's like sticking their toes in the water here, but I'm not sure it's the end all be all either. You know what I mean? I don't know. Bernard, you are the resident New Yorker here. Does this make any sense?
Yeah, I mean, I totally get the concerns that are brought up and like why this app was shut down. Like, I understand because like calling it Vigilante.
That's the first problem.
I mean, it kind of describes like what it's in some way it's promoting, vigilantism, which is like, entirely illegal in New York. I'm pretty sure. So that's why it got shut down. Yeah, it makes sense. It causes a lot of dangers and it causes an impedance in police work. But I think it also brings up an important question of I guess, transparency in police work, and how we as civilians who are monitored and protected by police should also be fully aware of, like, what they're doing, and like to at least some capacity, where
if it serves a purpose of like where it encourages avoidance, I would agree with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a certain amount of knowledge like should be available to the public, I think.
Oh, sir, I think that's accurate. I mean, that's why we have
but couldn't this
websites where I can see all the fucking sex offenders in my neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Couldn't this all be solved by cops just wearing cameras and cops being recorded to wear cameras, and those camera logs being available to the public?
Yeah, but I mean, I think there's also a problem with where there are a lot of instances where cops do have body cameras during certain situations, and they go off, or they're just not available for some reason.
Maybe.
Well, there needs to be better restrictions and like enforcement of that thing.
Oversight.
Obviously, that's not where it needs to be yet either. I feel like that's a reactionary measure to everything that's been happening. I feel like it's a better option than what this Vigilante app is called. I think that this whole idea of like police monitoring came up after the fact that this Vigilante app was brought up. I feel like it's a bunch of arguments about a topic that is relevant right now, but that wasn't the purpose of the app necessary to promote transparency. Or if it is, I can't see that point in its design yet.
Sure, and to be clear, like I'm not going to sit here and like bash on any cops. Yeah. Like I lived in New York for a long time, and I actually know cops, and I had many interactions with them as a bar manager and working in the service industry and stuff like that for whatever reason. And even a couple instances when I was probably doing something I should have been and had an interaction with a cop. I was never arrested, but I've been on both sides of that. You know what I mean? And never in my life have I ever met but like there are cops in New York, very much like there are cops everywhere who are like, we have bigger fish to fry, and you're not really doing anything that's like fucking, like we have bigger problems to handle. So get the fuck on with your life. I'm gonna get on the fuck with my life and my job. That kind of thing. Like, I don't think that
you don't get speeding tickets in New York because they have other things to do.
No, because people know how to drive in New York. Sorry. Anyway, I think ultimately that this app is not the solution that people need. I think there needs to be.
It's not the one they need. It's not the one they want. It's the one they need.
I think the idea here is good. I just don't think this is the iteration that we need to land.
No.
I guess.
What I want you to do is to say it like they did at the end of Dark Knight.
Oh, it's
it's not the app.
It's not the app we need, but it's the one we deserve right now.
Yeah, there you go.
So okay.
Fair enough. I just wanted you to say it.
No, it's fine. And if you want to talk about, Batman is New York City. So there you go. Anyway, all right. Let's
number 3.
Okay. God, that got complicated quick. Kotaku ran a piece this week to check in on the games Oops on Circuit and One Life, both known as permadeath games, meaning you get one shot at it, and if you die, you're done for good. Can't play it anymore. So some of you might remember a while back we had Alex Stolzer on the show, who happens to be one of the devs on Oops on Circuit, so nice shout out to them. Okay. We figured it'd be good to share some of the article's contents on these games because the world, honestly, it needs them. Like, this is a kind of a cool thing that we don't see very often. We need more stuff like this and figuring out a way to make this work. But it's also an interesting look at the unique games, the uniqueness of these games, and the continued struggle to build something you love. I mean, they're both indie outfits, and they're just trying to, carve out a little space for themselves and make a few bucks
really
here and there.
Something different.
People are just trying to make games and make a living, man. That's it. On the terms of Oops on Circuit, they started and then canceled an Indiegogo campaign recently, deciding that it was best for the game. They switched over to Patreon, and they're making somewhere to the tune of about $250 a month right now. But production continues to a certain degree. They have decided that they're going to work on some side projects to kind of help bolster funding, that kind of thing. But it's not canceled by any stretch. They're still they're changing a few things, but the permadeath mechanic remains intact.
Yeah, they want to focus on that at least or something. I got to understand that because I feel like that's the thing that really makes it unique. And
yeah, I think it's the central thing.
Yeah,
it's the core that you build around, right? And I think that existed for Open Life too, but they got approved for Greenlight on Steam.
One Life.
Sorry, One Life. Yeah. Thank you. What did I say?
Open
Life. Yeah. No, it's One Life.
Yep.
Thank you. I think after they hit Greenlight on Steam, they went dark. It's been like almost a year now.
There's been a year, I think.
Yeah. Social media's gone. The website doesn't even exist anymore. And after multiple attempts, I think Kirk Hamilton from Kotaku was the one who wrote this article and was saying that he finally got in touch with them and saying that the game is delayed indefinitely, but not canceled. They were emphatic about that point. So, what's the deal?
I don't know. What do we want to talk about? Like, do we want to?
So here's my question to you: Is the perma? Like, yeah, there's two kind of prongs here that I want to try and attack it from, in the sense that, like, is the permadeath thing too rough to? Sorry, it's good. Is it too difficult a thing to pull off for the public? Like, are people more interested in being able to, whether it's free to play or not? If people are paying for something and they only get one shot at it, does that make any sense?
I don't think they're designing a game.
Well, Ubisoft said that they're free to play, right? So, like, you can have your one shot. You don't really you're not necessarily losing anything.
No, I know, but I don't think it's a game. It's more of an experience or an art piece or a statement. I mean, it's really hard to say play my game and then never play it again. Like, you are cutting up your sales like drastically. That, I mean, what's your option after you beat the game and you really liked it?
It's definitely a niche thing for sure, right? And I think it's going to attract a certain type of player. Getting something like this made and then accepted is probably the hardest part. It's not necessarily about finding the audience, I don't think.
I know, but you're asking for an audience that wants to play a game that it can only play once, and there's only 2 of those games that exist. So,
well, at least on a major, according to this article.
Once they beat Upsilon Circuit, or Upsilon, or however you say that fucking Greek word, letter. It's same thing, word and letter. But it's... Right. You're talking about a niche market that is literally 2 games. Like, I beat one, I go to the next one, I beat that one, or I die in either of them. Right. And my niche experience is over because there's no more. They're trying to create a market that doesn't maybe not exist yet or something. Or
I think it's certainly a very hard one to penetrate and take advantage of.
I mean, I like the idea.
At least when it comes to, like, generating revenue or whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I like the idea. I don't know if permadeath is the right way. Maybe...
Sorry, it's permadeath.
Permadeath. Maybe, like, not to get too design, like, talk.
It's okay. Bernard's here. He'll correct us if we're wrong.
I feel like maybe an appropriate difference or a way they could spin that permadeath mode is make it more like your decisions permanently matter. You don't permanently die, so, like, you can continue playing the game, but you do something, and that is... like something that always going to affect your character or something, and it could be like small or something like.
So you're saying kind of like a middle ground between like BioWare or Fable games and this,
maybe
where it's like you make choices and then it affects some sort of slider and it's maybe that you can't just walk it back like it's permanent.
Yeah, you can't walk back. Like I did this one thing, I killed a bunch of children in this one level, and people remember that, and I go into the town and I can never buy anything from the school teacher because she's upset at me because I killed all of the children.
Okay.
It sounds like you're describing Dark Souls a little bit.
Is that how Dark Souls works?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Dark Souls has like that kind of memory, but you could always just you could restart your save. You could remove your save and start the game over.
Start a different playthrough. Yeah, exactly.
I'm talking about like maybe as a variation of this maybe as a variation of cutting people off from playing my game is finding a way to make that permanent like decision or permanent thing that thing that happened in the game permanently means something to me instead of stopping me from playing the game.
But isn't that kind of where that's I guess it depends on how you look at it, right? Because ultimately, like, if you have one playthrough on this game and you decide that you're going to interact with it on that level, it has to mean something to you at that point. You take a much greater ownership over that playthrough than you would with something you can just start over at any given moment.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you still have that urgency to not fuck up your game save because you don't get another game save. You don't get to delete your game save. If you stop playing this game for 10 years and come back to it, you're back with the same choices you made back then or something.
Okay.
And maybe that permanence is more viable than permanently not allowing me to play the game.
You want a perma life game, not you just want a game that you can't die.
No. I'm not saying I can't die. Okay. I'm saying maybe I could die in it, and that's something that would leave like that would kind of.
But you can start over, I guess, is what you're saying.
You would die, but the decisions you made still made. I'm just saying, like, don't stop your audience from playing your game. Like,
fair enough. No, I think from a marketing and like a money making thing, I think you're right.
Not even from money. If you want people to just experience your game, like, what if this mediocre gamer comes and plays your game and they don't know how to play and they jump into a lava pit because they don't know how to jump yet, and they're done playing your game. They can never play your game again.
But I don't think that's the kind of player that's going to play this game. And if they are, then
so then it's not a game to me, because games are more accessible to people. It's more of just like an experience. Here, come experience this thing I made, and then you're dead. And I guess maybe that is a game.
But this is why it's niche to me. People know what they're getting into if you're playing this. You know what I mean? You're not going to get that random play. And if you do, then it's...
Fuck, I would hope so. People buy shit for no reason at all. Like, people do not do research when they buy things. So, like, they're going to buy this...
We need an app for that.
I guarantee when these games come out, they're going to be so upset that they can't respawn that they're going to get, like, a flood of complaints. Like, they're just going to, like... And it's going to go onto Reddit or 4chan or something, and people are going to be like, don't play this game, and the game's going to, like, not do as well because of it.
Well, I guess the point of this article was saying that, like, both of these games are having some troubles. One Life more so than Oops on Circuit, but
I know I didn't want to get into the fact that these studios are having too much trouble or something, because
it sounds like one's dealing with it and the other one's kind of like
Yeah, I know, but it's such a small market right now. I kind of want to like be optimistic about it and like let's pretend this genre of game exists or something where you could exist or something.
I feel like I still am optimistic, especially after reading this. I'm like, especially when it comes to the fact that we had one of the two as a guest on the show, like and we certainly support all devs in general. Like, it's a fucking tough racket, you know what I mean? But it's cool to see that they're making choices that aren't preventing them from seeing this through to its fruition. You know,
I don't know. I like the permanence idea. Like, I like the decisions you make is meaningful.
I just think it flips gaming on its head, where you can just it's so much simpler now to just like restart shit, or like, oh, it's a checkpoint. It's not. I don't have 3 lives to finish this game. I have, It depends on like whether or not I hit this cutscene or not. Like, it's just it's super easy to play games now, or easier, I guess I should say, because if you're mediocre, maybe you just play it your own way. But
you can go play old emulations of games and stuff, and you can save the state exactly where you are, then you can just pick up. Like, you could be playing Mario, and you could save right before you make the one jump to the
exactly, and
it's just made the whole process a lot simpler.
And we've talked about this specifically on shows, like, how do you make death meaningful in a game? I don't know. When you make it permanent, that's pretty fucking meaningful. Like, do you know what I mean? And yes, I know that's a very like a black and white thing to say, but I mean it fucking works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think what else, how you supplement that makes a difference, and it sounds like they both had plans to do that appropriately. And I feel like Ups on Circuit is still kind of like moving towards that. And I'll be interested to see how One Life kind of ends up too. But
I like talking about the idea or like the design of it or something. Maybe if they did have permanent death, it would just be for that tune that you were playing right then.
Sure.
I don't know if you guys know that term or something. A tune is like a character you play on your account.
Yeah.
So like maybe if your tune died, it's basically hardcore Diablo mode where like you can't turn off the hardcore, and every time you die, you lose that character, and then maybe you have to go through some grace period or something. I made all this effort making this game, wouldn't I want people to play it as much as they could?
I think that's the traditional way we were taught to think, where it's like, if you make a game, you want as many people to play it as possible, or not, because I think these people have gone out of their way to try to create something for an audience that is very specific, and that's what I mean when I say niche. You know what I mean? And I think that's correct. Yeah. So they're not worried about making $1 million; they're worried about creating something that they believe in, and just like most indie game developers do. You know what I mean?
But if they're not interested in making $1 million, does that speak to something about the fact that neither of these companies are actually making these games right now?
I would say that one is not making the game, the other one is kind of making the game.
I don't know.
It takes money to make these things, and I agree with you. There is a business aspect to it. You know what I mean? All right, Bernard, you've been waiting very patiently. Chime in, buddy. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I'm glad they're making these games, I guess. It's definitely cool to see people experiment with like very, very like core mechanics and what we expect from games, like things like being able to, try again after you lose. I don't think it's a smart way to make a profit, I guess, is a good way to put it. But yeah, I mean, it's for the reason why they're not, I guess, doing so successfully in terms of profit, I guess, is because it's sort of ingrained in like just how we approach games to try something, and not even just like video games, just like any sort of activity or any sort of thing that we're trying to build up skill.
Creative endeavor, yeah.
Yeah, we try something, we fail usually, and then we try it again, and then we just keep improving on ourselves and are trying to get better at the certain thing.
That sounds suspiciously like not settling for mediocrity.
Yeah, well, I mean, even at a certain point, even at like a low when you're like near the skill floor, I guess, like you still have to have that ability to retry and just improve whatever aspect of whatever you made a mistake on. You have the ability to go back and try to not do that second time, and that's sort of where we get that pleasure from I guess improving ourselves. So ripping that out of a game is definitely difficult. It's definitely a difficult design decision that they made, but it's an experiment, and hopefully their experiments can continue. But,
I think I agree with all that. Like, it's cool that they're trying something different.
All right, well, there you have it. It's good.
Yeah?
It's good.
Yeah?
I think so. I think Bernard covered it. As always, you have to have the designer to kind of keep, at least for this show, a perspective about shit appropriately, especially when you're as level-headed as he is. All right. We are going to take 2 quick topics because it's the lightning round, everybody, and give each member of the panel a minute to chime in uninterrupted for the most part. At the end of each minute, we will award the panelists a quantity of some type of points based on 0 things in particular. Our distinguished guest, who in this case I guess will be Bernard, even though he's a core panelist, will be in charge of awarding me points for my respective minutes, all right? So the pressure's on you, buddy, because I'm about to rock your world. Topic the first or fourth? Topic A.
Nope, it's
Topic A. Kojima jumped on Twitter recently to applaud Westworld as well as state the fact that the episode 2, or the second episode of Westworld, featured a line that encapsulated his approach to game design. Subtlety, the idea that players can be something more than themselves or a different version of themselves, and even emergent gameplay was kind of hinted at here. While this sort of seems like a famous designer grabbing onto the it thing right now, one could argue that Westworld grabbed onto video games first. Or not, depending on how you look at the history of Westworld, and we'll get to that in a second. But, so what came first, Kojima or the Westworld? Is Westworld better off imagined as a Kojima game, or is the, Metal Gear series just Westworld with a greatly reduced cowboy factor? I think everybody, for the purposes of the next few minutes, it's important to keep in mind that Michael Crichton directed a movie called Future World, starring Yul Brynner, which is the foundation for what Westworld is now.
I thought Future World came after Westworld. At least the movies. Or
something.
Yeah. But I'm not positive.
I'm just saying this happened back in the 70s.
Yeah. They were long time ago.
Kojima was not making games in the 70s.
No, damn straight he wasn't.
So, I guess what I'm saying is, if one, I'm not trying to assume that one inspired
so which one
the other.
Came first? Probably Westworld.
Yes, it did.
But okay.
But not necessarily this iteration.
No, this iteration of Westworld.
It's not necessarily a fair comparison to make, but Bernard, I'm going to give you the first minute to tell me whether or not you think Kojima's just kind of like making an excuse to kind of get out there and be like, oh yeah, what I'm doing is exactly what Westworld is doing. Is that an accurate thing? Do you think he's right? Maybe he is. I don't know. Or do you think that this is just kind of like Westworld happens to be kind of a cool thing right now, and it's cool that people are reacting to it and finding some sort of common ground?
So I personally really love what Kojima does, and I think he's one of the few, I guess, avant-garde level type game designers in our industry. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the ties to what was said in Westworld, I can see that reflected like back into what Kojima made in like MGS5, and even some of the games prior to that. I can't really get behind him attributing that to himself, though. I wish someone else would have done it, is I guess the way I should have put. It seems it would have been way better if someone else was to point this out rather than him doing it himself, because it's a little it could have been handled a little better, I guess. I don't want to make it. Yeah, let's just end it there.
Fair enough.
It's a little narcissistic, is the word.
Sure, yeah.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
It's a good word to throw.
Gonna say something more crude than that, I guess.
Yeah.
I appreciate your resistance in that regard. Hey, I am going to award Bernard
3 cups.
All right?
He wants Metal Gear Rising.
It's a game that you can buy.
I know that's what he wants. And you want it free.
No,
as a
but
gift.
but there needs to be more cowboys in it.
Oh, Metal Gear Solid. There's like one cowboy.
No, I'm gonna award you the entire Kojima library, but everybody has to wear a cowboy hat, and you're not sure if they're human or robots. I mean, that's the only way to like seal this up, right? Like ultimately, like to merge the two
robots.
You can see this happening. So could Kojima, apparently. So, all right, fair enough. Nikk,
hey,
60 seconds.
How's it going?
Hi.
Hey,
start it.
And I'm starting
on the clock.
Okay. How do I feel about Kojima and Westworld? Is what you asked me, right?
Sure.
I feel. Actually, I agree with Bernard a lot about it. Like, I think it's odd that he pointed it out about himself. I expect it from him a little bit also, which I think is a little more depressing. I have a big problem with Kojima. I really like Metal Gear Solid. His games aren't terrible. I mean, they're really well designed. I think his stories are off the wall bonkers sometimes, but it's not a bad thing that his story's crazy. I been enjoying Westworld well enough, I guess. I have some reservations about it, but the fact that Kojima has said that he thinks like Westworld pulls from the same, like, it's not the right word, lexicon of game design that he uses or something has me doubt the validity of Westworld a little bit more.
Oh, I guess your time's up. All right. I think, sir, that you deserve. I think you deserve to watch Westworld on Sunday nights like the rest of us.
I watch it on Wednesdays.
I know.
It's okay.
I know.
It's okay.
Okay. Well, that way you can avoid spoilers if you watch it on time.
I don't even read about spoilers.
You're on the internet all the time. Spoilers. That's impossible.
I don't read spoilers. I don't know. Like I have like a filter, like a Chrome filter in my brain that just blocks out spoilers.
Right. Okay. You keep scrolling through your feed and you're like, no, yep, no, yep, no. Okay.
Well, actually, none of my friends actually talk about that stuff because
I don't really talk about anything on Facebook. All right, fine. Whatever. I'm still gonna award you a timely viewing. How's that?
A timely viewing.
There you go.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, 60 seconds. Here we go. I don't think it's really that outlandish, to be honest. I when I read it initially and saw the headline, I was kind of like, really? Kojima's like, I don't know, oddly trying to take credit for Westworld or something, and that's probably the wrong conclusion to jump to. But upon further reflection, I'm kind of like, look, the guy is like you said, Bernard, an avant-garde type of guy. He's very prolific. He's very specific. He's very, I don't know, just fucking out there, and he's making shit happen. He produces on a certain level, right? The idea of Westworld being this thing that has this like emergent world, and then these different things kind of like present themselves to you, or you kind of uncover them as you play the game of Westworld, is very Kojima-like. So it's not necessarily a random thing. I agree with you, Bernard. It would have been cooler if somebody else had said this. Like, oh, watching Westworld makes me feel like I'm playing Red Dead Redemption mixed with Metal Gear Solid or something. You know what I mean? I don't know. But at the same time, I think it's undeniable that just because he's a fan of movies and production in general, like, so it doesn't surprise me at all that he's a fan of Westworld, I guess, ultimately. The more I thought about it, that is the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are
you going to award me the ability? Bernard, are you going to award me the ability to read a clock correctly so that I stop going over? I do it a lot.
You get one free trip to Westworld.
Oh, that's pretty.
That's
good.
Like 40. That's like $40,000 right there, based on their.
They mentioned it was $40,000 a day.
Yeah.
So how many days are you staying?
I don't know. That's up to Bernard.
Yeah.
It's up to how much you can handle.
I think ultimately, and because I'm kind of a pussy in this regard, where I'm still going to play that shit white hat. I'm not going to go black hat. So
no,
I won't be there very long. Anyway, topic
the fifth.
Back in August, Facebook announced its Game Room feature. At this week's Unite 16 conference, they confirmed that Unity will ship with Facebook support. This helps solidify the notion that they're in the PC gaming realm and playing for keeps. There's a notion here that its mission is to compete with Steam, however, or at least based on the headline, which at first glance is a bit laughable. Based on what we know, or what at least this article told us, how realistic is this idea? Is the audience there just because it's Facebook and that people are more interested in playing games on Facebook or via Facebook that don't involve Farmville and or the people that are keeping Palmer Luckey on lockdown at the moment. Anybody who's been following the Oculus stuff knows what I mean. Nikk, I'm gonna start with you.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi. Is Game Room gonna make a serious contender for Steam?
I think they are a much better contender than the Windows Store is. Honestly, Steam is a pretty fucking huge monster to overcome. What is it, like 150 million users or 250 million users? I don't know. I'm making up numbers, but
it's a lot.
You would believe me. It's more numbers than you'd be able to count. But the number of online active users is also like a huge count. So the fact that they have to compete with that is a lot, but if anybody could do that kind of thing, it would be Facebook, because Facebook is so prolific around the world already, and if people could just integrate it with their game system or something. They already have the streaming thing for Blizzard games. Like the Blizzard launcher already has like this option. Hey, do you want to stream your game straight to Facebook while you're playing it? Like before you start the game, it's like, yeah, sure, why not? I click on that button. All my friends can see me playing the game right away. I don't even have to log on to Twitch. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to open broadcast software. The way that Facebook is doing this kind of stuff is pretty cool. Now, the fact that all this stuff's going to be linked up to what games I play, to what they're going to advertise me, is the troubling part. But it's not really that big a deal, because they'll probably show me games that I want to play, and I can do my research on the ones that they don't find.
And you'll always be able to opt out to some degree on the level of advertising.
At some level, and I got Chrome ad block. So
there you go. I am going to award you a 24-hour session from Chris Morris playing Warcraft and Legion expansion. I'm pretty
Warcraft and Legion expansion.
I'm just saying.
That's what
I'm pretty sure there's a game called World of Warcraft, and there's a Legion expansion.
Yeah,
and he posts a lot of those videos to Facebook.
He does it once in a while.
Yeah,
he's too busy at BlizzCon right now, though.
He is too busy at BlizzCon right now. Probably talking about Warcraft Legion.
Yeah. Or talking about all the skins he unlocked in Overwatch when he doesn't play the game.
All right, fair enough. Bernard, I'm gonna let you go last, so I'm gonna take the next minutes. I think anybody standing up to Steam right now is, from a very high level view, very kind of laughable. I mean, we have stuff like Green Man and GOG and stuff like that that have carved out a niche for themselves, but also face a certain amount of uphill battle when it comes to dealing with taking on a juggernaut like Steam. If Facebook thinks it's got the chops, that's cool. Like, I mean, look, Valve's got a headset. Facebook technically has a headset. They have experimented in a social gaming and browser-based gaming realm for a while with Zynga and everything else. So it's not like it's unfamiliar territory to them. To make claims and make partnerships with things like Unity or Oculus to kind of like increase that bandwidth for developers and for people like that, like, only strengthens their position. Do I think it's realistic to think that they're going to be, from the get-go, be like an initial competitor for Steam? No, I don't. But the potential is certainly there. The resources are there. Everything is there, including the user base, which is obviously established, much like Steam's is too. You know what I mean? So I guarantee you the 1-to-1 ratio for Steam and Facebook users is probably pretty spot on. So I'm curious to see how that, like, those loyalties lie, or if it's ever even in question. It's not something we're ever going to have to worry about for a while, I think. Not that we should, but you know,
things happen fast, so you never know.
Thanks, Ferris Bueller. All right.
So you get rewarded 10K likes, and you can distribute them however you want amongst all your posts.
Put them on the Muffin Express
I'm going to put
page.
them all on the Cheat Codes podcast page. That's what I'm going to do.
Cool.
All right. Finish this off, Bernard.
Most of the likes are from Trump supporters.
Okay.
I'm not biased in that regard. Go ahead.
All right. So yeah, it's interesting to see them, I guess, do this now. I guess not so much because Oculus came out not too long ago. So I feel like this announcement would have been a little different if Oculus would have been a little more successful, and I feel like it would have been more pushing, their ability to have exclusive games on Oculus on their platform. But since that wasn't the case, I think this is just sort of what we have now. I think being a Facebook platform, it's going to definitely be a viable platform for certain types of games, and then who knows, maybe we'll be playing the next Elder Scrolls on Facebook rather than on Steam because it's just available there, and you can get it cheaper or something, or your friends are tied into it better. So there's definitely a possibility for it. It does seem a little dubious right now to see it competing directly against Steam because Steam's such a monster, but there's definitely, the groundwork is there, and the potential is there. So we'll see in a few years how this turns out.
I'm going to award you, because you mentioned Bethesda, the only person in the world that gets a preview copy of any Bethesda game from here on out that extends beyond the initial 24 hours before release. Theoretically. Cool. You're welcome. Fallout 5, here you come. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I think episode 117 is about to be in the books. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We're grateful to have you here with us. Please hit us up at cheatcodespodcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, and get in on the conversation. Let us know what you think. It's going to do it for us for now, but make sure you can check out the Patreon page as well. You can become a patron for as little as $2 a month. Thanks to everyone who's jumped on board so far. We're excited about your contributions, and we're excited about pumping out content for you to at least feel like you're getting your goddamn money's worth. But we certainly appreciate it regardless. We're going to see you next week. And until the next time, although I named you Kurtz, Nick,
yeah,
it's the famous line.
The horror.
The horror. Thanks, Bernard. Appreciate the short notice, buddy. We'll see you all next week.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Chico.